Israel's Prime Minister has met with US President in Washington as fresh talks on a ceasefire and hostage deal in Gaza continue. US President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff is optimistic about the current US 60-day proposal ahead of his trip to the talks in Doha.
We have an opportunity to finally get a peace deal, Mr. Prime Minister, as we discussed, and I'm hopeful for it very quickly.
Speaking to reporters at the beginning of a dinner, Donald Trump flagged talks with Iran following the bombing of the country's nuclear facilities. With more, here's our North America correspondent Carrington Clark in Washington. Hi there, Carrington. So what does all this mean for the ceasefire negotiations currently taking place?
Yeah, good day. Well, Donald Trump built a certain level of expectation going into this visit by Benjamin Netanyahu to Washington, D.C. This is the third visit by the Israeli Prime Minister since Donald Trump took back the reins of power in January. But it's a very different type of situation, meeting schedule than what we'd previously seen. In fact, we didn't expect that Donald Trump would be fronting the cameras in the way that he did. He unexpectedly invited some journalists and some cameras in at the start of what was supposed to be, or what was billed as, a private dinner with the US President and the Israeli Prime Minister to answer this series of questions. And he was trying to paint an optimistic picture about the chance of this ceasefire going into action. He has said in the lead up, or he did say repeatedly in the lead up to this meeting, that he was going to be taking a firm hand with the Israeli Prime Minister as he pushed for that ceasefire. And again, when he was asked questions about the current situation when it comes to the ceasefire, he said that he thought that there wasn't any hold-up and that things were tracking along nicely. He was also asked about his previously expressed plan to turn Gaza into a type of Middle East Riviera, which he had first floated back on a previous visit by the Israeli Prime Minister, which shocked many of us that were in attendance, in that it seemed to imply that he'd be forcibly removing the Palestinians who currently occupy that land. When he was asked about whether or not that plan was still in the potential works, this was his response.
We're working with the United States very closely about finding countries that will seek to realize what they always say, that they want to give the Palestinians a better future, and those who, and I think we're getting close to finding several countries, and I think this will give, again, the freedom to choose. Palestinians should have it, and I hope that we can secure it close by.
And we've had great cooperation from surrounding Israel, surrounding countries, great cooperation from every single one of them. So something good will happen.
So that was Donald Trump painting that optimistic picture of what he says can result in the Middle East as these conversations continue. But he was also asked about the recent intervention when it came to Iran, the US president ordering US jets to hit Iranian nuclear facilities, and the state of the relationship between the two countries. We obviously saw Iran retaliate at a US base based in Qatar, although they had given warning and there was no damage done to that base. But the US president says that Iran is wanting to talk, and he says he sees no reason why he would need to strike again, at least at this point.
I can't imagine wanting to do that. I can't imagine them wanting to do it. They want to meet. They want to meet. They want to work something out. No, they're very different now than they were 2 weeks ago.
Now, Donald Trump had, as I said, suggested he would need to be firm with Benjamin Netanyahu going into this meeting. The Prime Minister seemed to take a very different tact. Instead, went for flattery for the US President, and also said that he'd nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize for the actions he'd taken, not only in the region, but also around the world since he had taken back the presidency. Donald Trump has long espoused a belief that he should be awarded a Nobel Peace Prize, so that seemed to go down well. But these two have decades of relationship behind them. Most of the time they profess to being good friends, but they have had some rocky moments. The question now is, Benjamin Netanyahu is in Washington for a couple more days yet, whether or not Donald Trump will be able to get what he wants from the Israeli leader, and whether or not he will not only secure a ceasefire in the short term, but also a roadmap to a permanent ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.